Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sammeli Sammalkorpi, you are the CEO and co-founder of Sievo. Could you tell very briefly, what is it that you actually sell for your customers? Like if you had to tell it in one tweet, so what is it that you do?
Procurement analytics for large enterprises. Large companies have a lot of procurement-related data assets in different places. Sievo comes and takes all of that data and processes and provides it for our clients on silver platter.
Okay, quite good. Even I understand. Welcome, Pasi Leino. You are sales director of Dun Bradstreet, and a funny thing came to my mind. Since you in DNB sit in top of huge amount of data, and you probably know how to use it, so do you ever do any mistakes in your organization?
Well, have to admit that yes, sometimes we do, but usually the root cause is that we have not actually followed what our data says.
Is that so?
Yeah, that is so. Humans,
Yeah. Okay. In this episode, we will talk about the risks that concern the supply chain. And as a topic, this is somewhat trendy. Who would have guessed? Considering, for example, the situation in the Suez Canal. But to start with, it interests me, how well did you realize the risk of COVID-19 coming? Like, did you predict it, or could you predict its influence on supply chains?
Yeah, at least I guess pandemic and global supply chain disruptions have been on the agenda as a potential threat. But at least for me, really understanding that it's happening now, it took some time. And then, of course, all the precautions and understanding what are the implications. I hoped I would have had such, let's say, foresight to understand all of that. But no, I think it was a quite chaotic situation and it emerged. So at least for me, I wasn't able to predict all the outcomes.
Well, I would say that predicting in forehand fully is hard, but it started to show quite fast actually that what kind of implication it does bring and how factories were dropped down in China and so on. So in that sense, it was hard to predict, but when something, non-expected has happened before, there was kind of idea how does it look and where to seek the answers, what to do and where to go.
Yeah. What did you compare it with?
Well, if you can say that something is normal in this life, of course we see the change, how much transportation stopped and how many factories were on and off and so on.
Well, the pandemic is one thing, but what are the most typical problems with supply chains that occur?
Yeah, I guess sort of the nature of the business is that now and then something unexpected happens. Sometimes it happens on, let's say, a company level, and that's something I guess a lot of companies are used to that. Okay, certain suppliers may have challenges and so forth. Sometimes they take place on a kind of geographical level. There's a volcano erupting somewhere impacting sort of supply chain and supply in certain areas. I think what's interesting in the last couple of years, we have had at least couple sort of events that have had global implications, not just supplier-specific or regional ones. We've seen the COVID pandemic, we've seen the Suez Canal incident, and both of them had a kind of global supply chain implications. And I think for me that also speaks about the fact that the global economy is more interconnected nowadays. So an event somewhere will have global implication, and I find that very interesting. So same, but different from the global implication point of view.
Yeah, and especially when seeing that if we look at the supply chains, quite often there are the same suppliers, quite many are using. What kind of plan B there is if someone else takes the components, what you were supposed to have, if the ship you should get your stuff, what if that is still in the harbor, how to do, what is the plan B there and so on. So, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the ways the hidden risks in supply chains can be detected. So what could be an example of quiet signals that tell that there is a disaster on its way, like the boat that falls stuck in canal or otherwise things get messed up?
Yeah, well, of course, that is kind of unexpected actually that the boat is in the canal.
Yeah.
But what we are looking quite often from angle from credit risk, for example, we can see that that same player is paying slowly for quite many already. So if it's not visible on your side yet, it might be soon. And also seeing that how the general circumstances are going. And one quite new actually set of data from our side is what we call as shipping data, meaning that we actually know quite well when the ships are going, whose stuff there is, who is handling that, and who weighs it, and so on. And when knowing that like 40% of the cargo in world is late, you might expect that if you know that your stuff is still there, what to do, or do you just need to wait? What kind of, it depends how you have built it.
Please tell me a couple of examples how a smart company can prepare to possible risks. Like, I guess it's too late when the boat is already in the canal, but what can you do ahead?
Well, of course, Sammeli may correct me, but of course it's all that what you have done already. What kind of process you do have in place in your current systems? Does it allow you to do something when something happens? And does it actually warns you? Does it reveals that, okay, this company is part of bigger chain? Is there any eruption somewhere else, and so on? So I would say that it's more like that you have done your homework already. It makes it possible to react faster, or how you see?
No, absolutely, because I think when something unexpected happens, so almost by definition, the exact situation is unexpected, so you can't prepare for that specific event. But what you can do, as Pasi mentioned, you can, let's say, build your muscles, build your agility in advance. You can make sure that you have right kind of process to capture data from different sources, to process that data and react quickly. So I would say it's like a game of soccer. You can't do a 90-minute plan for each exact event, but if your players are in shape, you have the right strategy, then you can adapt to the kind of emerging circumstances. So it's really preparation when you have time to build the muscles, to build the agility. And in practice, it's access to data, organization that's agile, trustful supplier, customer relationship, a number of things that you can prepare for.
One of the business terms that has become really familiar during this pandemic is scenario. So how reliable are these scenarios actually? Because for me, as a common man, so to say, they seem to be really random. Like, can you actually make decisions based on scenarios?
Yeah, I think there's this people think that scenarios are answer to everything. Yes, you should kind of go through different potential outcomes in advance and kind of figure out what might happen. But this world is too complex to be really kind of planned in advance. So if the scenario means that yes, this is a certain scenario and this is my action plan, it will not work. This is too complex, volatile, interconnected world. So again, for me, it's more about making the right game time decisions, being prepared for that, than rather reading a scripture that this is what we should do when ABC happens. Nobody could foresee the Suez Canal episode. Nobody could foresee all the outcomes of the COVID. So it's more about being agile and prepared rather than having a certain fixed set of scenarios that you work against.
Yeah, I really liked your example of football. Like you have to do the basic job first, and then you are more prepared when the X hits the fan.
Yeah,
like,
I also think that a lot of, let's say, control freak middle managers want to control everything, and therefore they think that the business life is like gymnastics where you can prepare for this 3-minute stuff in advance and it looks beautiful. Business life is too complex. It's more like soccer and even more complex than that. You can't have that prepared choreography, but you need to have this agility, muscles, data to kind of act in the situation.
So, Pasi, do you agree with this, or how do you?
As a soccer man myself, I would say that without creativity, you cannot be a top. If you have 3 ready-made options, everybody else know those 2. So in that sense, definitely. You have to be able to react when something happens, and sometimes actually do decisioning without the full knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that's also important point, because I do believe data is super important, and founders, analytics company, I believe strongly in data analytics. But I think there's also the point that sometimes we have this analysis paralysis. We wait for perfect understanding, but when we have the perfect understanding, the situation already went. So
exactly.
you need to be able to cope with the uncertainty and do decision with best data you have, but still it will be a limited set of the total picture.
Yeah, I love the point of creativity. And for my ears, it means that though we have masses of data, we still need the human touch and the human brain and the creativity to predict. Do you agree? Or
You're correct, because if we look, no matter we are talking about data, there may be discussions about algorithms and so on, but quite often there are humans behind those. And it may be that you may also need human to actually look, what does this mean for it? Especially if something is not so common and easy to predict, then you need something who can really create things.
I guess the problem with data is often that we have, it's not the problem that we wouldn't have data, but we have it too much. So how should you refine the data so that it can be properly used in order to predict, for example, the supply chain risks?
Yeah, I think sort of it's exactly like you mentioned, sort of there's a data explosion. There's more data available than ever before. Previously, companies were making decisions mostly based on internal data and some qualitative external data. But nowadays, providers like DNB and other sources provide a lot of relevant sort of external data as well. But the challenges that large companies are having is not kind of really processing that data itself. It's about making the connections between different data sets. If you get good data from DNB about your supply credit risk or shipping data, still to make it relevant for you, you need to combine that with your, let's say, internal data, which suppliers I'm using, whether they are critical suppliers or not, who are my key customers, who are benefiting from these kind of components. So I think the way supply chain leaders and procurement leaders can create competitive advantage is by creating processes and capability to capture these different external data sources and then combine it for their benefits. So that if you get information from DNB that this supplier is in risk, you can connect the dot and understand what it actually means for my business. And I think that data combinatory capability is key for supply chain leaders to make business value.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you were a little bit answering for my next question, actually, since I wanted to talk about a little bit about the possibilities. First, we talked about risks, but could the risk management data help companies also to find hidden opportunities?
Well, of course, because you can just turn it upside down, because traditionally there has been looked at credit risk, for example, but at the same time it actually reveals that whose situation is getting into better, and you can actually found out kind of hidden fruits there, where you go, and if someone of the small customers is actually growing fast, you want to be in that ride. So, but with correct data and understanding it, you can early be in there and support them to grow and help your own business.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think the only way to avoid risks in life is to die, because then that's the way you get out of the risk.
But you don't still know what happens after that. Well,
that is true as well, perhaps.
Yeah, that's true. But if somebody who is watching this right now is having nightmares about their supply chain problems, so what would be your best piece of advice for them? What is the most essential act you could do in order to prevent these catastrophes?
I would perhaps say that the most important thing is to start. Start doing things, have perhaps even better systems in place. Somebody can help there, and actually start looking at where am I now? What are the most crucial things which I need to improve first? And for that you can use good systems and good data.
Okay, that sounds a little bit like getting an insurance of some level.
It does somehow, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think from my point, I definitely copy the you need to start, and also there's no such thing as risk-free world or perfect system. So kind of if you kind of think that alternatives is doing nothing or having the perfect system, kind of you shouldn't be in either position. Just start to move. I think that's the key message. But then also for me, I think sort of there's increasingly exploding amounts of data. Large companies have tens of thousands of suppliers and so forth. So kind of relying on this old manual way of processing and saying we focus only on top 20% of suppliers and we do manual reviews and so forth. It's not a scalable approach. So really I would also think, how can I scale my risk management in a way that it's largely automated and humans need to only act on the kind of alerts created from the system? Because if you look 5-10 years from now, the data amounts will still explode. This manual processing is not enough. You need to build these automated systems to kind of be able to react when it gets tough.
So do I understand correctly if I put it this way, that you should make the risk management and the data concerning it your everyday business?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.